In this video, we're going to take a look at how you can use custom fonts on a web page, because after a while you may get a little bit tired in your design work of only using serif, sans serif, and monospace font declarations and want to be more specific. Perhaps your client or employer needs you to use their branding font as part of your project. So with that, we're going to take a look at two ways that you can do that. So one way is that we have the font that will be downloaded and installed on our web server the same way we would add images to our pages or other media assets. So it will exist inside our project folder. So I have my HTML file here. I have a folder called fonts inside that, and I've downloaded 2 fonts already. So you may be thinking, okay, where can I get fonts to download and use and not have to worry about that? Well, the best place, in my opinion, to do that makes it super easy is, of course, going to be the Google Font Library. You may also download fonts off of the Adobe library if you have a Creative Cloud account, so that's an option too. The Google fonts are pretty easy to work with, so if I look, I can search for a specific name, or I can choose different categories. So I narrowed my categories to only display and handwriting. So I got some things that when we look at it, we can see these are not the standard fonts that we work with. Now, what's going to matter is the names on the fonts. So the 2 that I downloaded Item, and we do that simply by clicking on Download Family. It downloads the zip file, which we can see is still there down at the bottom on my page, and then I downloaded Unbounded. Now, Unbounded is a little bit different. Unbounded is a variable weight font, so it does have some other characteristics that can come into play when we work on it. So downloading the fonts is simply click on Download. And we'll take a look at how we can work with those downloaded fonts first, and then we will look at what it takes to use Cloud Fonts, or the same Google fonts that we have here, but we don't have to download them. We can just link to them. And we'll see how to do that with Cloud Fonts. Now, W3 Schools has a really nice explanation of how to do it on their fonts page. So you can see CSS web fonts and explanations about it. We have different types of fonts that you can work with. So it's kind of up to you. If we look through the different browsers, we will see that there are different levels of support on it. Typically, most fonts you download will be in a TTF or OTF format. Sometimes you will find the WOFF and the WOF2 format as well. But what we're really trying to do is to figure out how to do that. And with working on it, what we're doing is we're listing a URL of how to access it, and then we create a style rule where we use that as our font family. Key thing to pay attention to here is the URL. We will have to know the specific path to our font, so we'll take a look at that. We also need to notice there are no quotation marks here when we are defining it. So we don't have to use quotes around it as part of putting it into our item. Now, there can be style rules that may require it because font names have 2 words in it. So we'll take a look at how to go about that as well. So right now I have some text on my page, no style information yet, so that's where we're going to start and add in the font. So up in the head, we're going to start out and create a style. So I create my style tag there, and now we do our @font face. And we can see the code completion in Visual Studio Code is helpful on this, otherwise we can type it all in. But there it's waiting for me to type in what I have. So if I just type the name of the font that I downloaded, and now I'm going to put in the URL. Now, mine is in my fonts folder, And now I'm going to grab item. And again, the code completion is helping me here. If I want to look at what's there, we can see that's where the font is. We can see unbounded is there. Unbounded is a variable white font, and it also then has a static version as well. But we're doing the item here, so we can add that in. Now, a key thing to know about this is if I want to add multiple at font face rules, I do have to have multiple ones. I can't just keep adding font family source. That does not work. Now, if I want to use this, so I'm going to apply this to my class of local fonts. And now inside that class, when I want to apply it, I can just simply say now font family. And these, of course, were all the default font families that came. This is what we can use. And to be honest, we could create a really good web page just using those. But again, if we want to use a specific one that we have downloaded, it's nice to do so. So then we list that font. And notice again, where do we use quotes around it or not? We can or cannot, depending on what we want to do. And now if I look here, we can see how that font has now been changed as part of it. So that gives me a nice update to what I have. So once again, if I want to have a second one at font face, and this time I'm going to do unbounded, and then in the URL it will be fonts unbounded, and I can use either the variable width, we're just going to go with the static, and I will grab black because it's a nice bold font. Now let's see, let's apply it. Make a new class for it. I forgot to attach something to it. So now we have a class local2, and this will be our font family. And notice when we're typing this, I type F, and now if I type F again, it automatically gets it to what we want. I hit return around to on the keyboard, and now we have options of what we can type in. And now inside my quotes, I am just going to put unbounded. Now let's save this and take a peek and see. So we can see now we've used two different fonts on here as we've added it into our project. So that gets us off to a pretty good start. So this is working with local fonts. We use at font face, then we reference it. Now using style rules like this, it doesn't matter whether we used at font face and used a local font. That's local, meaning it's on the same machine, on the same server, on the same device as our HTML file, so it's able to find it. They're neighbors. It's not like it has to go to a different web server, which is what we're going to take a look at now. Adding in our next option is to use our cloud fonts, and we will do that by linking to them on Google server. Now, if I want to know what the languages that I need to use, I'm first just going to just go link CSS, and we can see it now gives me the starting point, and so we can see that what we have is it's going to be a style sheet, and then we have the href, or the hypertext reference, the link to where we're trying to go. Now, when I was on my fonts, I click on FAQ. FAQ opens this page. And now if I scroll down and go, okay, well, how do I use these on my website. And on the FAQ, it has my Google Fonts CSS API, which opens up this page. And now with that, we see the instructions for what we need to do. So we need to link to that, and then we can create a rule that ends up using it. Now, the nice part about doing this is, unlike needing multiple font faces, we can make multiple or pair multiple things in here. So let's https://fonts.google. Now I could have copy pasted it, and it's googleapis.com/css2, and then we put in a question mark for the query and then say family. And the font I'm going to grab first is Lobster, just because it's kind of cool. So now my family is Lobster. So what I can do simply is go H1, font family, and this time I will just say, now we have, capitalization matters. It has to match the naming that we used here. So I have family Lobster. Let's save that. Click over to here, and now we can see we have achieved that font. Now I'm going to go grab another font, though I don't know any names offhand. So let's look under Browse Fonts and see something that is noticeably different. So when we use it, we'll be able to tell that it's different. All right. So I'm going to do Fredoka 1. It's 2 words, so we're going to see how we are able to accomplish that. Now looking at this, you'll see when it's 2 words, we do that by using the plus sign. So let me look at the name. Once there, I'm just going to go in Fredoka 1, copy that. So to add a second font, we just simply put an ampersand, family equals. Now I'm pasting that in and put in a plus. So now let's assign to that class. This will be my cloud fonts, not clown, cloud fonts. And I will say font family. This time it's going to be, and let's try this out. Fredoka 1. Save it out, and it added spaces in what we were doing. But the way that we do the space inside our style rule is now we have to use the quotes around it. So if you notice before I tried using a plus to match that, it didn't work. So now this time I can include that space, but I put it inside quotation marks. Now if you were watching closely, you'll notice I typed single quotes, but now I have double quotes, and that's because my code formatter, Prettier, is cleaning my code, and if I use single quotes, it's putting in double quotes as the default instead to make sure that my code is correct, because CSS rules do enjoy using double quotes often. But if we look here, we have Crimson Pro. There's a space, but it's in quotes. Crimson Pro has the plus on it here. So I intentionally wanted to break it to help point out that while we use the plus here, when we reference it down here, we use the space, but it requires the quotes, where a single name font family gets away with not using quotes because it's one word, so we're not trying to link these two together as a single entity. So hopefully that's not too confusing and makes sense, But as you can see, we can do some pretty fun things here. And now what we could do on this is we can increase our sizes as well. So to accomplish that, I'm just going to apply a style rule to the body, and on this one I will say font size, and this time I will just say 2 as part of it. Save that, and now we can see that my font is a little bit bigger, so we can just see that difference better on screen. So by setting the rule first, then that sets our default size so that then our headlines are still bigger than paragraph text as part of it, so that it doesn't make everything all the same size. So we're not trying to make it all the same size, because by default we want our headlines, H1s and H2s, to be bigger than paragraphs. But with this, you should be confident in either using local fonts or linking to Google Fonts and utilizing those on your pages. Now, something else that's really nice about the Google Fonts that's important to know is the license. Google Fonts are open source and without cost, and you can use them commercially, even within a product that is sold commercially. So this gives you a lot of latitude while you are working with these. So it's not something where you have to be concerned about the legality of using the font. You're not reselling the fonts, so you're not packaging up and selling their fonts, but you can use them as fonts in any of your projects. So knowing that the licensing isn't an issue, in addition to being able to grab fonts from the web or have them installed on your server, can make all of your web pages that much more beautiful. Good luck and have fun.